This week on Christian World News, 3 bomb blasts, 1 direct hit. A war correspondent shares his riveting survival story and how his brush with death has deepened his faith. Plus, the Jesus Revolution comes to the U.S. Capitol. See how America's leaders turned out to hear about the revival that swept America's young people in the 70s and why some believe another is on its way. And millions of Christians praying in more than 100 languages to bless the nation of Israel on its anniversary. Welcome to Christian World News. I'm Charlene Aaron. Fox News war correspondent Benjamin Hall miraculously survived a Russian bomb attack while covering the war in Ukraine. 1 year later, he's released a new book called Saved. Wendy Griffith spoke with Hall about how his faith has helped him make an amazing comeback.
This was the scene of a battle just a few days ago as the Russians tried to move forward. They're still shelling it right now.
Thanks to his trademark British accent and reporting style, it didn't take long for Fox News correspondent Benjamin Hall to stand out for his coverage of the war in Ukraine.
When we speak to these guys, they're feeling optimistic.
But on March 14th, 2022, Hall became the story as he and his crew fell under Russian attack on the outskirts of Kyiv.
We slowed down at a checkpoint, an abandoned checkpoint. As the car slowed down, out of nowhere came that first bomb, came whistling out of the sky, landed about 30 feet in front of us. Quickly, we knew we had to move, and there was a shout to reverse the car to get back. But then a few seconds later, the second bomb landed, and that landed just next to the car. It blacked me out. I was as close to death as I think you can be, in a total silent blackness. And into that blackness came my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, Honor. And she was right in front of me, as clearly as anything. She said to me, "Daddy, you've got to get out of the car." And my eyes opened. I was brought quickly back into the world, and I took grabbed my way towards the door of the car. And just after I had gotten out of the car, the third bomb hit the car itself. And that one threw me away. And I was out for a little bit.
When Ben regained consciousness, he saw the serious nature of his injuries.
I'm on fire. My right leg is gone. My left foot's gone, mostly gone. And I'm putting the flames out. I'm rolling around. I'm trying to stop the fire. No one knew where we were. No one knew we'd been hit. And there was no cell phone reception. And that was the moment there where you have to pray. You have to think, what am I going to do?
Then a car with Ukrainian special forces drove past.
It didn't see us the first time, but it got lost down the road and it came back. I woke up soon after that in a hospital inside Kyiv, a small Ukrainian hospital. But then I knew I wasn't saved either because there was no way out of the city. And then began this incredible evacuation led by Save Our Allies, who managed to get me out on the Polish Prime Minister's train.
In addition to his right leg and left foot, Hall also lost an eye and severely damaged a hand. Even worse, his longtime friend and cameraman, Pierre Zakchevsky, and Ukrainian producer Sasha Kushnova did not survive. Clinging to life, Hall had to endure a 10-hour train ride and cross the border to Poland.
We'd managed to break through the roadblocks to get there, break through the curfews. People were checking my wounds to see if I was really injured or if we were a Russian hit squad coming in. And that was another point where I just had to pray. And it was when I got to the Polish border 10 hours later, through incredible agony, that there was a US Black Hawk waiting. And as I rose up into the sky, then that was the time that I knew that survival was over and recovery was beginning.
Tell us about the recovery, though, because that was hard.
Yes, and the recovery continues to this day. Every day I'm at physio. I see doctors most days. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I was first taken to Landstuhl in Germany, biggest US base outside, a hospital outside, and where all the injured from Afghanistan and Iraq had been treated with very similar wounds to mine, called polytrauma.
In his new book, Saved, A War Reporter's Mission to Make It Home, Hall writes that he had to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for his wife and 3 young daughters.
I didn't want my daughters to come and see me straight away. I didn't want them to see me so badly injured, unable to move. That's what drove my recovery, knowing that instead of them coming to see me, I would get better as fast as I could and as well as I could every single day. And so every day I woke up and the plan was to do more than I did the day before.
What was it like when your daughters first saw their daddy after this?
Oh, I mean, it was this, but I was quite nervous because I had spoken to other people, veterans who'd had similar accidents as I'd had, similar limb loss, whose children were very afraid of them when they first saw them. But when I walked in that door and I knew they were waiting inside, I didn't quite know what it would be like. And then that one moment as they just all ran up and grabbed hold of me, my Honor, my eldest, wouldn't let go. And there was just this moment where she wouldn't let go of me. You're back, you're back, you're back. And we all cried. And it was just, that's what I had worked so hard to do. They were what saved me as well, was getting home. So that moment was one of just total joy, real joy.
And your wife has been such a support through all of this.
Oh, everything. I mean, one of the things I said the first time I saw her when I was in Landstuhl in Germany, a few days after I got out, the first thing I said was sorry. I said, I'm so sorry. Not because of what had happened, but because of what lay ahead. I knew that it meant a different life for us. She said, what have we got to do? Where do we do it? We will do it together.
And Benjamin, you said you felt the prayers of everybody during your recovery and even now.
Every single day I received letters. I received messages in the mail and social media from people across America, thousands of them, sending prayers, willing me on, sending blessings. And every single time I read one of those, it gave me that another little level of strength to push through. And, you know, in many ways, I am now much closer to God. I feel closer than I was before.
I've heard in some of your interviews, you've said, God saved me for a reason. Do you know what that reason is?
No, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say I know what it is, but I do know that I was saved because of incredible support and help and prayers and kindness and bravery from other people. And if I can give some of that back, then I think I would be doing the right thing.
And Benjamin, what about now? Are you back full-time at Fox?
I have a couple of operations coming up in the next month, so not at the moment, but we're already talking about some plans, and I want to focus on some of the optimistic side as well. I'm so amazed at the incredible people I've met, the prayers that have been said, and the heroes around me that actually for the first time I want to tell some of those really uplifting, optimistic stories.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Up next, it's been called the last great awakening in American history. Now the Jesus Revolution comes to the U.S. Capitol. See how our nation's leaders respond to the story. Welcome back to Christian World News. A taste of revival made its way to the U.S. Capitol with a special screening of the surprise hit movie Jesus Revolution. CBN's Matt Galka brings us the story.
Our country is a dark and divided place, but now there's hope, and it's spreading.
The words from the film Jesus Revolution echoed through the Longworth building on Capitol Hill. The real-life stars of the movie about the movement that turned hippies onto Jesus in the 1970s invited lawmakers and staffers for a viewing, sponsored by CBN and Hope to the Hill Ministries.
For me, it's about the staff, too, mostly because this film talks about a time when young people changed the world. And God has often used young people, and so you know this, and many people understand that work around Washington, D.C., that young people run this country. 25-year-olds and under are the ones that are the staffers here on the Hill. And I believe that if God can get a hold of their hearts, it's amazing what he can do with people that are wholly given to him.
Kelsey Grammer plays Pastor Chuck Smith, who welcomed young people to his Calvary Chapel in California.
It doesn't get old because I like to watch it with other people.
Harvest Christian Fellowship pastor Greg Laurie and his wife Kathy found themselves as part of the revolution.
This is a fresh story, and I think there's a lot of parallels between the Jesus Revolution days, i.e. early 70s, and today. So many parallels, so many similar problems that we were having back then that we're having now in an amplified way. So I think this message is really relevant for this moment in time.
The movie's message of revival resonated with members of Congress in attendance.
For those of us who serve on Capitol Hill, who are followers of Jesus, that are praying for a move of God again in our land, it's wonderful to be able to have this movie come and share about when it happened before and to plant those seeds and stir hearts.
I think it's super encouraging for us. It gives us hope for our country. I mean, obviously we're in the political realm, but the real solution is spiritual. The solution for our country, not political.
Jesus Revolution made more than $50 million at the box office with a budget of just around $15 million. And even though it was a big success, Pastor Greg says there are no plans for a sequel yet. At the Capitol, Matt Gelka, CBN News.
And the Jesus Revolution movie is doing big business at the box office and through online streaming services. Recently, CBN's John Jessup and Abigail Robertson spoke with Pastor Greg Laurie about the financial and spiritual impact of the film.
Greg, Kathy, in the weeks since it opened, Jesus Revolution grossed more than $50 million at the box office. First off, what do you make of the incredible response? And then ultimately, how do you think it fits in with the larger narrative, with the signs that God is on the move?
Well, I think that's it. God's on the move. And it not only did well in the theaters, it blew up on streaming platforms and also on DVD sales. I mean, people are hungry for this. And I was amazed when I saw how it outsold movies like Top Gun, Avatar, and the new Ant-Man movie. Like, why are people wanting to see this? I think they've heard about it. They heard about it in the theaters, because I've never heard of a movie in a theater that had people breaking into spontaneous prayer and worship. Or like I heard one story about, it was shown in the theater and afterwards some kids wanted to be baptized and they baptized them in the fountain in front of the theater. I've never heard of such things. So I think these are all like little indications that God is at work. Sometimes when Kathy and I are out walking, I'll say, Kathy, it's raining. She'll say, it's not raining. But her hair is very thick. She won't know it's raining for a while. I'll say, no, it's raining, because bald men always know when it's raining first, right? So I see like these things like what God has been doing through the Jesus Revolution film over in Asbury, other things we're hearing about, like little drops of rain, and we're praying it'll be a downpour. But I think this is more than just a successful film, and I think Hollywood's paying attention. It's a story that's resonating with people.
Kathy, Greg invoked your name. You should be able to respond. But what is it you believe about the story that so many audiences just feel connected to?
I think it parallels the times we're living in right now.
That's it.
I think there's a generation of young people that is searching. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of just searching for meaning and purpose in life, and they're looking for God. And whether they know it or not, they're searching in a lot of different ways, and a lot of it is leading them into roads that are dead end. And that's how we felt, you know, being raised in a fairly moral home and a church-going home. The whole hippie movement swept. It was so intriguing and so alluring for me because it had this promise of a deeper purpose and meaning and spirituality, which I wasn't seeing in the established church I was attending. And so I think that search for something more than just the material world that we're living in is really, it's something that God puts in our hearts. But I think the times in which we're living in, where all of that talk of God and the Bible and Scripture and a firm grid, a moral grid in our lives is just swept away, that deep within our hearts and deep within kids' hearts today, I do think they are searching. It may not look like it, just like it didn't look like we were searching for God when we're experimenting with LSD. And I think there's a parallel there. There's a lot of division in the country, a lot of political division, a lot of breaking up of families and homes, that kids and people are finding themselves to be desperate. And there's a line that Chuck Smith said when Greg asked him one time. Chuck Smith is one of the characters in this movie, the older pastor who saw the Jesus Revolution. Greg says, Chuck, do you think you'll ever see another one? And Chuck said, I don't know that we are desperate enough. That was about, how long ago, 7 years ago?
Or a little bit longer.
I think we are getting to a point of real desperation. Whether you're a churchgoer or not a churchgoer, you look at the landscape of what's happening in the world today, and I think people are saying, we need something. Something has got to happen. And when they see this movie and they see lives turning around, that a generation of kids could find hope and purpose and meaning gives them hope, especially those of us now that are the older generation looking at our kids growing up. So.
A global outpouring of prayer for the state of Israel. See the ministry that's gathering millions of Christians to lift up the Jewish state in its 75th anniversary. Welcome back to Christian World News. Next month, thousands of ministries worldwide will unite in prayer for Israel on the anniversary of its founding. As Chris Mitchell reports, many believe this historic initiative couldn't be happening at a better time.
Mike Bickle of the International House of Prayer in Kansas City explains how this call to intercede for Israel began.
We began a call on March 7th, about 6 weeks ago. And the call, in essence, was to call 1 million people to pray 1 hour a day for Jerusalem for 21 days.
It begins May 7th and runs through the 28th. Bickle says the response to this call has now gone viral and global.
Well, it's blown up on us, and we did not understand that. We quit counting at the 1 million mark about April 1st, at the 3 weeks after giving this call. And there's thousands of ministries participating in this at this point in time. I'm guessing well over 5 million will participate.
A website, Isaiah62fast.com, not an International House of Prayer website, has been set up as a place where ministries from around the world can provide their information so people can find a participating ministry in their region.
We want to inspire and be catalytic in an escalation of the global conversation of the biblical narrative for Israel. So we want lots of ministries talking to lots of new people about it. And we have right now 100 languages this is translated in.
The scripture chosen to focus on during the time of prayer is Isaiah chapter 62.
It's 12 verses, line upon line, glory of God for Jerusalem. I don't know of any other chapter that has more divine information about God's purpose for Jerusalem than Isaiah 62.
Bickle expects this fast will accelerate global prayer for Jerusalem.
But let's go forward a year from now, 2 years from now. Those 5 or 10 million people, they all have 2 or 3 friends. So a year from now, there'll be 20, 30, 40, 50 million people in this conversation about the biblical narrative for Israel.
Bickle believes that number may eventually grow to as many as 100 million Christians praying for Israel.
The initiative will culminate here on the southern steps of the Temple Mount on the day of Pentecost, May 28th. Bickle says with the unprecedented divisions within Israel right now and the looming threat of a nuclear Iran, he sees this as a for such a time as this moment, an opportunity for the church worldwide to stand in the gap for Israel, as Queen Esther did thousands of years ago for the Jewish people. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Southern Steps, Jerusalem.
And to learn how you can sign up to participate in this prayer movement, just head on over to our website, cbnnews.com. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Here at home, service members on the USS HW Bush completed more than half a year's deployment recently. The carrier returned to Naval Station Norfolk in April, and CBN's Mark Martin was there to capture the happy homecoming.
As the massive aircraft carrier made its way to port, its sailors lined the perimeter of the ship as excited family and friends anxiously waited. More than 8 months is a long time away, and the reunions reflect that.
This is our 8th deployment, so she's been through 8 deployments, 17 years of marriage. So I would say that it was routine, but it's never routine. It's always a joy to come back and see my family again, especially after 8.5 months.
This is amazing. I mean, I haven't seen this guy ever. I mean, he was born on deployment, so in the middle of deployment, I got to video chat with my wife, and this is the first time I get to see him.
Rear Admiral Dennis Velez commands the entire Carrier Strike Group 10.
I've been doing this for 31 years. This is my 10th deployment, and I just come in here and seeing family, seeing the sailors, seeing their families for the first time. It is magical. It is really it is the best part of the deployment, is coming home.
About 5,000 sailors served on board the USS George H.W. Bush during this deployment. They worked with 26 countries, developing relationships with NATO allies and partners in both the Africa and Europe areas of operation.
All a part of our effort to reinforce the strong relationship that we have with our NATO allies and to promote peace through strength and strength through unity.
The strike group also participated in the largest bilateral U.S.-Israeli exercise in history.
Units from the Army, the Air Force, and the United States Navy joined up with Israeli Defense Forces and participated in a multi-domain, so air, maritime, and land warfare exercises.
Faith also played an important role in this deployment. Lieutenant Commander Brandon Hood serves as chaplain.
Usually when our sailors show up to underway chapel services in the forecastle, we say, "Welcome to the Great Awakening" aboard George Herbert Walker Bush. It's usually filled to overflowing, and we're very grateful for a rock band and gospel choir that combine forces every Sunday and just rock out, and it's a very alive chapel service.
I absolutely rededicated my life to Christ, and I feel so good about it.
I'm excited. I don't even know it's like there's no words to explain like what it's like to be like secretly praying declarations over your husband and for him to like email you and say, "I've accepted Jesus Christ into my heart." It blew me away. I literally just like fell to my knees and was so excited, just thanking God for it.
CBN's Helping the Home Front, which partners with local churches to meet the needs of military families, took part in the celebration along with the Warrior's Journey organization. Among the items handed out by the groups, gift bags, Bibles, and other resources.
It's such an honor to be for CBN to have Helping the Home Front, that program, and to be able to reach out to all branches of the military and help families. We want to support them. They're out there fighting for our freedom, and we want them to know that we are here, right here in town, ready to serve them.
And after a lengthy deployment, it's time now to catch up and soak up the love of family and friends. Mark Martin, CBN News, Naval Station, Norfolk, Virginia.
So good to see those happy families reunited and to hear of that one sailor who gave his life to Jesus Christ. That's what it's all about. Well, thanks for joining us this week. And until next week, God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend.